for the best coverage of the Jazz, Utes, and Cougars is right here on The Zone. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back. Yeah, this feels like the vibe of the slow motion skating off of the ice last night. Utah Hockey Club wrapping up their first inaugural season here in Utah at the St. Louis Blues with a massive punch to the gut to end the season. Nevertheless, there's still a lot of great memories.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. Our program brought to you by G2G Bars. All natural ingredients and no preservatives make the G2G Bar the perfect protein bar. Let's jump into the cut right here. The radio play-by-play voice of the Utah Hockey Club, Mike Folta, joining us as he did all year long. Let's jump in here with the cut.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is what made the cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
And the cut brought to you every day at this hour by the good folks at the Doug Smith family of dealerships, Dodge, Ram, Chevy, Subaru, Kia, and, of course, the now Mitsubishi brand into the family. So there you go. Nobody knows cars like Doug. All right, Mike Folta, give us your thoughts on that last one last night. It was a tough one for this Utah Hockey Club team to go out on a loss, a 6-1 loss to the St. Louis Blues. Nevertheless, I will not be shaken off of the idea that this was a massive success this year. How did the team take it, though, last night? Nobody likes to lose, but it must have been an awesome season at the end of everything for this team.
Yeah, and certainly not the way that the team wanted to go out, but you got to keep in mind that last night St. Louis was playing for their playoff lives, basically. They needed to win in order to cement a playoff berth, and so you had a Blues team that was basically playing a playoff game, and you had Utah that was trying to finish strong and playing for pride, but as veteran defenseman Ian Cole said last night after the game, they just couldn't match St. Louis's intensity. I mean, you can't fake that urgency. And so the game itself wasn't really indicative at all of the way this team has played over the last few months and in this inaugural season. And it gave us a chance last night to tell some stories a little bit on the broadcast and kind of look back at some of the high points throughout the year and kind of go through the journey that we all went on with this team during Utah's first season in the NHL.
Let's do that here. There's just so many things to look back on this season. And first of all, congratulations on year one with the Utah Hockey Club. I would love to hear from you personally because you were there for every single game, every moment, everything that you hung on. How much did you enjoy being a part of this and seeing this whole thing develop?
It was like a dream. You know, it was my first year in the NHL, and it was unlike anything I could have expected. The people within the organization were fantastic to work with. I wasn't expecting our broadcast crew to get along so well, but oh my gosh, we got into some shenanigans and had a great time. And every city we would go to on the road was just another great experience and great way to get to know each other. And it was really special getting to know the folks on the TV side a lot because that's who I traveled with. Matt McConnell and Dom Moore, Nick Olchek, with Sarah Merrifield and Kim Becker. Like, those guys were all just A-plus humans to be along for the ride with. So that part was awesome. Guys, there was a lot of games for me. In the minor leagues, we would play 72 games instead of 82. And this year we had 82 games, obviously, with Utah, and then 7 preseason games as well. And it was 31 new teams to prepare for.
Yeah,
so
but listen, it's the big club though, and you're not doing the bussing around. I feel like the bussing around in the minors kind of takes a few years off your life, brother. Like, here's the thing. What did Kramer say about El Paso? I've spent a month there one night. That's what you really had to do. I mean, that's kind of the vibe of traveling around some of those smaller towns. Now you're in the bit with the big club, and those 82 games. I know it was a long season, but at the same time, there's this element of, when we talked last Wednesday out on the plaza, there's an element of, I can't believe October 8th was like 5 minutes ago when we had the home opener.
Well, that's the thing, right? It's a grueling travel schedule, but when you experience it, you understand how these guys are able to perform at such a high level throughout such a long stretch of time, because you're flying on a charter plane. When you get on, they ask you if you want steak or if you want chicken.
Wow.
Like, you're not going through security. You're driving onto the tarmac and you're hopping right on the bird and zipping to a new city. So, and then when you arrive, you're at a 5-star hotel. So that's all to say that they do a great job taking care of us and making sure that we're able to function at a high level when we're on the road. And yeah, in the minors, you're taking a bus trip overnight and you lurch to a stop at 4 a.m. in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and then you got to go help the equipment guys hang up sweaty jock straps so that the equipment dries. And you didn't have to do that here in Utah, so it's a little different. But oh my gosh, it was just an unbelievable experience.
Well, I'm sure you missed the sweaty jock strap days, and I think this team also probably doesn't miss the stuff that they had to deal with in Arizona. I'm curious, since you brought that up, what did the guys say about that? Because in Arizona, they did not go to 5-star hotels. They did not get that kind of treatment. So how did the guys react? I'm sure you probably had some conversations. How did they react to the way they were treated this year compared to the way it used to be?
Yeah, and none of the guys want to just dump on Arizona or anything. I think a lot of guys really enjoyed living there. A couple of guys had just built houses.
Yeah.
By the time they had moved, Lawson Krause, Clayton Keller had just finished building houses in Arizona before they moved to Utah. So they were definitely sad to go in a sense. But when Ryan Smith approached them in April, the owner and governor, and he sat them down and looked them in the eyes and had candid conversations about what it's going to be like, but also what do you guys need? I think that lit a spark in a lot of these players. And one thing that Ryan Smith has said, kind of throughout this season, is that he wants guys to come to Utah and have their best years in Utah. And that's with the hockey team and with the Jazz, right? And what we saw this year is a lot of guys individually taking that next step on the ice, where we had Clayton Keller sets a new personal high. Nick Schmaltz, who's been in the league for 8 or 9 years, he sets a new personal best. All the young guys took that next step. So the team and Ryan Smith and the leadership, they've removed any obstacles or any excuses to keep these guys from being at their very best in these crucial stages of their career. And we saw that unfold numerically in the stats and the production that these guys put up this year.
You talked about how you guys as a broadcast team, had a lot of fun out on the road, and I bet that was a massive highlight to be able to actually work with people that you like working with, and that's a big deal for us, and you put a premium on being around people that you like, and that's a huge deal. From a hockey playing standpoint, what's the highlight of the season for you? What was the call of the year for you? Maybe it's a game, maybe it's a stretch. Was there a game that stood out? I can't help but think I have the worst memory. It seems like people ask me, they're like, "Hey, what'd you guys talk about on your show today?" I'm like, I can't remember. Or what'd you talk about yesterday? I'm like, don't even ask. I can barely remember what I talked about last segment.
You might need to get checked out.
I know, but I'm just saying, that's how it works. I don't know if the games all run together like that for you, though, Mike.
Well, yeah, I can't even remember. Is this the DJ and PK show?
Yeah,
I can't. Who am I even talking to here? But honestly, at the start of the year, opening night was a dream. Opening night was honestly one of the most incredible days I've ever been a part of, and I'm just so proud of the organization looking back on that from October 8th. But right after that, we go to Manhattan for the next couple days, and I had never been to New York City before. And so getting to play on a Saturday night in a 6-5 overtime win in Madison Square Garden, that was another kind of pinch me moment. And there were a bunch of those throughout the year. I'm looking at the schedule right now because I have that same memory, Alex. I'm trying to think back.
Right.
Honestly, any game I got to do with a partner, a lot of games I do solo.
Yeah.
And there's no one to laugh at my jokes or anything. So any game I do with a partner, we had Nick Goldcheck on a lot, Lindsey Fry, a former U.S. Olympian, Tyson Nash, former NHL player. The games with those partners were such a blast because we just were able to play off each other and have fun talking about the game that we love. So that's kind of I guess, a high-level view, we had a long road trip kind of early in the year, November. Let's see. We went Vegas. We were in Vegas for like 3 days, which was probably 36 hours too much. But we had a good time. We hit a show. We had we had a nice dinner mixed in there. And then we went to Winnipeg, little palate cleanser, and then to St. Louis, another great dinner, and then to Nashville right after that. So we were loving it, and then by the time we finished the game in Nashville, we were ready to be apart from each other for a little bit. But that was like a great 9-day trip on the road.
I can't think of more travel contrast than going from Vegas to Winnipeg, Manitoba. That had to have been a shock to the system.
We're in the desert, and then we fly to Winnipeg International, and you get to our hotel, and of course there's already snow on the ground, and that's the only hotel on the circuit where the bathroom floors are heated because it's so cold there that your feet will freeze in the morning.
I think I think Bill Armstrong was talking to us about that at one point. He goes, "Yeah, they actually have tunnels under the city, so you just don't die walking to your next destination."
It's so cold. They have to build underground tunnels.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
Yeah. Now, speaking of bathrooms, the best bathroom we had at a hotel, Montreal, they have the bidet in there.
Oh, yeah.
But there's right next to the toilet, there's this control panel. And you can watch TV from the toilet. You can, adjust the seats a certain way, control the bidet. I mean, it is like, going to the bathroom on Mars or something. The technology is unbelievable. So best bathroom goes to Montreal.
Oh, you know
That's what everybody really wanted to know.
Well, I mean, look, those are the little things. Heated floors for your little feet, and then, a bidet for your tushy. I'm telling you. More people should get involved in the bidet. Now, I do want to ask you this, though, Mike, as we kind of look forward to next year, and you look at it and you go, man, that's awesome, it's great. The roster is going to look different. I don't care what people say. You're going to see some changes on the roster just because that's kind of the business that you're in. But where are the needs for this team? Like if you're looking at it and you go, all right, this team was an 89-point team during the year. They could have very well been a 92, 90, 94 points, and even then you might not you don't make the playoffs with that number. But to get to, let's say, that 98 to 100, what gets them to that point in the, next year? What do you think this team lacks right now that could get them to that point?
I think they need to, if they're serious about getting to the playoffs, I think another elite goal scorer is needed. Clayton Keller led the team, and he got to 30 goals. But what you see from these high-level teams, they have multiple 30-goal scorers. And hopefully Dylan Guenther becomes that, but he's just 22 years old. And so I think I would like to see this team add some more goal scoring. In Arizona last year, they had 6 20-goal scorers. I think this year we had 4, I want to say, or 4 or 5 with Utah. So maybe another goal scorer, which everybody wants one of those, but more importantly than that, I think, is down the middle. The center position is one of the more coveted positions in hockey, kind of like a shortstop in baseball. You really need to have a solid piece down the middle, multiple solid pieces down the middle if you want to contend. Logan Cooley is 20 years old, and right now he's Utah's top centerman. I think they need to add another centerman in there to kind of help Cooley and Barrett Hayden and those other centers with the matchups, because when you have multiple lines that can score and multiple centers leading those lines that can score, that makes it harder for other teams to match up against you. So I'd like to see them get another center. I think you probably have to go out and get a goaltender. I'd say probably. Really don't know. Connor Ingram's in the player assistance program right now, and so there's just not any information coming out, and so you don't really know what his status is going to be in the future. You have Karel Vejmelka locked up for the next 5 years, but a lot of these playoff teams have 2 reliable goaltenders that they can go to. So I think those are kind of the main needs. I would love another really offensively dynamic defenseman. However, you got to think that Utah's top 4 D-men this year only played together for 19 games. So you don't really have a great sample size of what this Utah back end is fully capable of. But I think the first need is another top 6 center. But, hey, you got to get in line for one of those because everybody is looking for those guys.
Right. That's tough to find in this league. Best goal of the year. You called a lot of them. This may not be fair to ask you this, but I'd love to hear who had the best goal. What was the best goal this season that you called?
No, I actually have a couple that kind of come to mind. I think Dylan Guenther in February scored a goal in overtime against the Philadelphia Flyers, and he scored it in the last second of overtime. It was
right.
a buzzer beater in OT against Philadelphia at home. And you don't see a lot of buzzer beaters in hockey, but that was a really special moment with Guenther scoring that one. He actually scored overtime winners in back-to-back games. A couple nights later in Columbus, he scored an OT winner as well. So that was kind of a unique stretch of games, but I think that buzzer beater OT winner from Utah's young sniper has to be that's probably my pick for goal of the year.
Who's out of contract when the summer hits and are going to be those either restricted free agents or unrestricted free agents here who are going to need a deal immediately somewhere or here?
Yeah, Utah has most of their big names locked up for the foreseeable future, and General Manager Bill Armstrong made sure to hand out some extensions at the trade deadline as well to keep some of the veterans around. And so you're looking at the restricted free agents. That means that Utah basically gets the first pass at signing these guys. The restricted free agents, you have Kyler Yamamoto, who was mostly in the minor leagues this year, and Jack McBain is kind of the big one. McBain's on a pretty team-friendly deal right now, but he had a career season. He had 13 goals. He led the team with, I think, 8 fights, and he was one of the league leaders in hits throughout the year. So that's a guy that you would love to have in your bottom 6, playing a really heavy, grumpy style. And he's a centerman as well, kind of that coveted position. He can take faceoffs and play down the middle, responsible defensively. So that's probably going to be a lengthy conversation with him about getting him re-signed. Unrestricted free agent-wise, by my count, you've got Nick Bjugstad, Michael Carcone, Robert Bortuzzo, who we think might retire at the end of this or after this season. And then Nick DeSimone is probably the most interesting one. DeSimone was a guy who was picked up on waivers back in January and kind of filled in when Utah needed him to. But, geez, he was pretty darn solid for the Mountain Blue and certainly put some good tape out there. And so it'd be interesting to see if Utah wants to re-sign him as a 7th or 8th defenseman for this group. Because there's going to be injuries, right? Like there's no such thing as an NHL team that doesn't undergo injuries. You look at some of the best teams in the league right now, and they're missing key players. It happens to everybody. So you really need that organizational depth if you want to make a deep run.
Mike Folta, radio play-by-play voice of the Utah Hockey Club, dipping in here, give us the wrap-up of the entire season here. And, we'd be real bummed, Mike, if this is the last time we hear from you before the season starts up or we get into the preseason games. Let's dip in on some draft talk, and let's hang out a little bit, and we'll get you in the studio maybe so you can get out of your house. And or are you going to do like a Midwest tour? What's going on? Are you going to go back to the old
what are you doing in the
grounds?
off season?
Oh, I'll get back to God's country, here at some point. I got a bunch of weddings and all that kind of such, but gonna try and make it back home for the Indy 500. You guys ever been?
Never heard of it.
Wish.
It's Memorial Day weekend, and there's no sporting event like it. You have European royalty right next to, Bob and Sue from Speedway, Indiana. I mean, it is a great melting pot of humanity. And it's 350,000 people deep. It's pretty fantastic. So I'll try and make it back for that potentially. But, guys, we have a lot to talk about in the summer. Like this team is going to undergo some big changes. There's some guys who who are going to be kind of matriculating up through the organization as well that we'll need to get filled in on. And we got the draft coming up in June, which is going to be exciting as well. So we have tons to talk about with this team coming up.
Love it. Mike, safe travels and get back safe, and we'll be happy to have you back in studio here sometime soon.
JJ and Alex, appreciate it, guys. And thanks again. I'm an Aggie basketball-wise. My fandom in Utah is still up for grabs on the gridiron.
Listen.
Get back out here in September and go check out some games.
Yeah, we'll go. We'll walk you through the ins and outs of the stadiums up here. It'll be fine. It'll be great. All right, man. Have a good one.
See you guys.
There you go. There's Mike Folta, everybody. How cool has it been to have Mike on here? I mean, dude's
great.
living his dream, but he's also phenomenal at his gig, man.
Really good at what he does.
Love it.
Outstanding voice. Did a great job. This
Yeah,
year.
and it really has been kind of the voice of me getting to know this hockey team better.
Yeah.
I mean, like, when I'm driving home and Adrian Denny and passing it off to Mike Folta, like that's how I got to know this team like a ton this year. So you can do the same thing, dip in on the station all year long next year as well. So there you go. JJ, let's take a break. We've got tons to jump into here when we come back. Let's get out and start talking a little bit about some of these NBA playoffs, some of the things that are going on across the board. I don't know, the play-in's fine. I think there's a part of a lot of us that are rooting for this Sacramento Kings team tonight. Am I wrong? Just so Nico Harrison.
Nobody's the Mavericks.
Everybody wants Nico Harrison to not. Anything that happens going forward positive for the Mavericks, he'll go, look, see, I told you. He'll try to take a victory on any of that stuff. I'm not going to let it happen. But what Nico Harrison said about the whole situation with Luka Doncic and that whole trade, and shocker, guy with a massive ego not accepting responsibility for that being a terrible trade. But hey, maybe the future will prove us differently. So we'll come back. We'll talk about that and much more. Stay here, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Accessing.
When TV and radio collide.
Love it.
Wow. This is what you get. You're listening to JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars.
Don't touch that dial.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back, everybody. JJ and Alex, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. Happy Wednesday to you. Oh, you know what that means? It's a Win Ticket Wednesday. Going to be giving away some tickets in about 15 minutes. Don't miss it. In the meantime.
Any girls out there just want to have fun?
Oh, my gosh. It's too late for the dump button on that. Any girls out there want to have fun? Actually, you know what? Pull that.
That's not what I asked.
Maybe
it was what I asked.
It sounded.
Any girls out there just want to have fun?
Oh, the show just got weird, JJ.
It'll make more sense in 15 minutes.
I guess it will.
Don't judge me. Trying to sell tickets here.
Oh, something. Trying to draw some kind of crowd. Hey, listen, tomorrow we're going to be rolling out for you, as we do every Thursday, our winner of our weekly Hercules Hero of the Week. All you have to do to nominate a Hercules Hero of the Week is you just go to KSLSports.com/contest and you nominate the youth sports volunteer in your neighborhood who does a phenomenal job. And we all know who that person is, or people. You have probably so many of those folks in your neck of the woods who just do so much for your kids, for their kids, for the kids in the community. The youth sports volunteers that don't get recognition, those are the people that we want to recognize. We want to be able to give them a prize courtesy of the folks at Beehive Meals and from Hercules First Federal Credit Union, and that's what we do. We read those nominations off over the air, give those some kudos live on the radio program, and then we also give them some prizes. It's all part of our Hercules Hero of the Week. Just nominate by going to KSLSports.com/contest. All right. Nico Harrison, why would he say he did? If Nico Harrison, in his press conference at the end of the season as the GM of the Dallas Mavericks, I'm sure this is, listen, locker cleanout or end of the year availability or the play-in game availability or whatever they were doing, that's very different from when we're able to kind of dip in and chat. Like the amount of people at those press conferences or the amount of people who have that microphone extended out going, Nico, explain yourself. Of course, JJ, he says he's got no regrets. No regrets at all. No argats. Because, if you say I have regrets about it, the Dallas Mavericks would fire you in the very moment that you said it, right?
Well, I think he did what his ownership wanted him to do. And he's taking the heat for it.
So the ownership didn't want Luka Doncic there anymore either.
They didn't want to pay him a max contract. Correct.
That's insane.
That's the GM's job, is to do what the owners want him to do.
I get it.
Now, the weird part is not wanting to do that and then making this very secret deal with the Lakers. That's the weird part about this. I can understand this ownership group, this new ownership group being cheap or not being committed to this kid. I don't know what the deal is, I don't know. I mean, we're trying to make sense of something that makes no sense whatsoever. But Nico's job was to do what his ownership asked him to do.
So my question was this. Because they decided what the terms were of this quote-unquote press conference. Is it a press conference? If there are no cameras and no audio recordings, did the press conference happen? Because that's what they asked them. No
Weird,
TV,
right?
no cameras, no recordings, and a closed-door media meeting with select members of the media.
Only media that were invited to be there could be there.
Okay, so Skip Bayless probably there, right? He's the old Dallas.
Sure.
He's the old Dallas guy. No, but I'm just saying, why on earth do you think that you're doing it right by inviting a select group of media members, closing the door, saying no cameras, no audio recordings? That seem like a program? Does that seem like a franchise has their crap together?
No. That's a group of people who are not very good at what they do and not very experienced at what they're doing, thinking that they can manipulate the media to form a narrative of their choosing. And that's just not how this works.
Well, so what I was going to say was...
They just end up looking foolish.
Right. What you end up doing is that everybody knows when you do it in that fashion that you're still hiding stuff, that you are still not able to control the message because the message was terrible. There's no way to spin this. There's no way to spin that this is good. This team is in the play-in tonight against the Sacramento Kings, right? They're going to Sacramento to take on the Kings. I've never wanted a Kings team to dismantle another team in the playoffs more than I do tonight. I want Nico Harrison to feel the absolute depth of everybody going, hey, man, because think about where this team was. And I would, in retrospect, I want Jazz fans out there to go, is this something that the leadership here in Utah would ever do? Probably not.
No.
Too many brain cells to rub together, right?
Yes, correct.
And I just think that the Mavericks represent something in this whole scenario that I think Jazz fans should be excited about. And that is when the right decisions get made for personnel come along for the Jazz. The problem is we haven't been able to see very many of those. We haven't seen the big game hunting situations, or they've happened, but they didn't bring anything home because there wasn't anything out there. And you heard Justin Zanuck this week talking about the flexibility to be able to pull the trigger when they want on what type of a rebuild this is going to look like, right? And I do think that out of all this, you can understand everybody else is pointing and laughing, but there are a lot of franchises that have done really dumb things in the past that are also pointing and laughing. And right now, if you're a Jazz fan, you're not in look, the Mavericks are in the playoffs. Was that what you would want? Yeah, we're in the playoffs. This year, with the type of leadership that they have, no. Those guys were in the finals last year.
No, right. And this, if you dig into this whole thing with Nico, he just kept reiterating the fact that defense wins championships.
Okay.
Did you know that the Mavericks were top 10 in the league in defense before the Luka trade?
Oh, my. Well, I'm sure they would have been number one if you weren't there. So now here's the thing, too. Is that a rip on Luka as much as it is a positive spin toward getting Anthony Davis in there, too?
It's both. Because both have to be true for them to look good in this whole scenario.
To look decent, yeah. Well, all I'm saying is Mavericks, Kings tonight, and we'll see how this thing goes.
I'll tell you how it goes. The Kings are going to win big.
Whew. Thank heavens.
The Mavericks don't want to continue playing, and they're not good enough to continue playing because the Kings are a better team. The game's in Sacramento.
Yep.
The Kings want to make the playoffs. The Kings will win.
All right. Let's take a break. JJ's reference to an 80s pop tune at the beginning of this segment, it's not going to come off as awkward as we thought it was going to be. Because next segment, we're going to be giving away tickets. It's a Win Ticket Wednesday, and then it'll all start to make sense. Stay here. 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen,
The biggest name. You're locked into JJ and Alex. With the insight and analysis on the teams you can't live without. Presented by G2G Bars. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is why JJ made the comment that he did. No other weirdness there.
Sure, right, yeah. Exactly. That's right.
I thought
Thanks,
it was
Alex.
good.
Yeah.
I thought it was good that our producer, Alex, like, the temperature of that was when you said it and he started chuckling. I think that we knew there was a little something extra there, right? So the reason we're playing some Cyndi Lauper, Girls Just Want to Have Fun, is because it's the Cyndi Lauper Girls Just Want to Have Fun farewell tour. There you go.
I meant it. Hey, girls, do you just want to have fun?
You're not making it any better.
Call now.
Oh, August 14th.
Call me.
August 14th is when you're going to be able to get tickets. All you have to do is be calling number 12 right now. It's a Win Ticket Wednesday.
Why is it a farewell tour? Where are you going?
No, I was going to say, I said
Stick
that.
around.
I said that to, I think Sly, when
I want
we
to show you
revealed
my
this last
action
week.
figure collection.
we were talking about this. I was like, Cyndi Lauper is not done with the Girls Just Want to Have Fun tour. In 11 years, she's going to be. How old is Cyndi Lauper, by the way? I'm going to say 62. Is that wrong?
Very wrong.
Oh.
She's literally saying farewell.
Oh, she's going to be no longer with us after
No,
this
sorry.
show?
She doesn't have terminal anything. She's 71, Alex.
No.
Yeah.
All right. But that doesn't.
She needs to retire.
That doesn't. Ask Keith Richards how to keep this thing
This
going.
girl's done having fun. She wants to.
All right. Win tickets right now.
Cash in one last time.
Do it. She'll be 75 and she'll do it. She'll do it again. But that being said, you can win tickets to what could potentially be the very last time that Cyndi Lauper's on tour. 801-575-ZONE. That's 801-575-ZONE. It's at August 14th at the Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater. You can also get tickets at livenation.com. There you go. So, yeah. That song reminds me of like a very specific like place when I was a kid. It's like walking to elementary school. I don't know why it reminds me of that, but I'm not sure why we were even playing it, but it was already kind of past its prime, so I don't know if there was something extra going on there. I have 3 older sisters, so that's the other thing. So there you go. JJ, Troy Taylor, now former Stanford head football coach, former Utah offensive coordinator, former Eastern Washington head coach, former Sac State head coach, says he was fired without cause and has pushed back at the, quote, unfair and wrong depiction of him. It was a strange way that they rolled this thing out, JJ, because they say that they fired him with cause. They say that there was some nebulous kind of, hey, people felt uncomfortable the way you talked to them.
They had an investigation.
Right. I've had many conversations with Troy Taylor. Troy Taylor's son and my son were on the same baseball team that I happen to be coaching. And so I remember having conversations with Troy Taylor. Now, the one spring that we spent like a few minutes every week chatting about stuff, because he knew what my job was, and obviously, you know, we were kind of jamming about football things and whatever, but baseball, obviously, with our kids. And that's all I have to go off of. But look, Andrew, what's his name? Andrew Luck.
Yes,
The new GM, maybe the new head coach at some point of the Stanford football team. They needed to get rid of Troy Taylor. And he said, look, we knew for a while that this was not the direction we wanted to go, which is weird because this was his, first year or second? Was this his second year?
I believe it was at least his second year.
So, yeah, because they had beaten.
He was at Sac State earlier. Right,
and then he was, it
was his second season.
His second season at Stanford. It's not like David Shaw left him with the cupboards full, and that Stanford program had been struggling for a long time prior to Troy Taylor showing up. I think what the Board of Governors and all the people got together did, he says, look, I didn't like this investigation. I wasn't talked to about any of this stuff. I just got allegations thrown at me, and then I was let go with cause, according to them. So not only does he get let go, he also doesn't get paid to leave, right? Which is what happens when most guys get fired. So I don't know what the circumstances are. I'm not at Stanford's HR department. But from what Troy Taylor's saying is he hasn't been given a legitimate explanation as to what went on. He's just being told what the allegations were, and he's like legitimately going, I don't know who is leveling these accusations. So it's a wild time. I feel bad for Coach Taylor. But, if things were going on,
he needs to be held accountable for it.
It's a bad deal.
And if it didn't happen the way that it was
then pay the guy.
Said in the investigation.
Fire him and pay him.
Then that's unfortunate too. It's a tough situation.
Here's what I'll say. I don't think Troy Taylor was a long-term solution as a head coach at Stanford.
No.
And that might have been like the number one conversation that they had. And then the number two conversation was, I think we may be able to go on something here with the way he may or may not be treating women in the office. So easy to go to, right? But I will say Stanford has had quite the issue with Title IX stuff, with their past. And I think every school has had to go through some version of this. So there's no room to mess around at all with any of this.
No, as we found out at Utah State last year.
Gotta jump right on it if that's the case. So maybe that's why somebody feels like, oh, I didn't get the fair shake that I should have. They're like, look, we can't afford to do to due process here. This isn't the criminal justice system. This is us having to make a quick personnel decision based off of what we think is going on. All right. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. When we do, speaking of football, speaking of the University of Utah, our Utes, we're not gonna, I guess we shifted. All right, that's fine. I do have some extra sound, though, that I do want to hear. We weren't able to get to the sound up on the hill from Spencer Fano, right? So I want to be able to at least get to that. So we'll get to that, and we'll chat a little bit more college football wise. We'll also get you going on what the regular season college football year looks like across the entire last 25 years. What the best year for your team was across all of those different years. So, and not just that, singular games that may have been a part of your school's history. So stay here. More to go. 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.